Hey guys, this is LG Speed Custom here, and in this video we are installing this winter's nostalgic V8 quick change in Kirby's 32 Roadster. So in the last video, we built a little Nerf bar for the back of Kirby's car. It turned out really good. It's at the Chrome shop right now, so while we are waiting for the Chrome shop to do their thing, we're gonna install this winter's nostalgic V8 quick change. This is basically like this, very similar to like the original quick changes that they used to make. It uses the early Ford axles, or bells, I should say. However, the ends, they use like a more modern 9-inch style sealed bearing. I'll grab an axle here. The axles, as you can see, are nice and beefy, really heavy duty, far superior to the original banjo rear end axles that are prone to snapping and then your wheel falls off and that sucks. So this shouldn't happen anymore. They got retainer plates on the end. Kirby's car currently has a 9-inch rear end in it right now. We're going to utilize the brakes and everything that are already on that, both the backing plates and the drums onto our current, or onto this new setup. There's a 4-link, like 4-bar and coilover suspension in it now. We're simply just gonna transfer all the bracketry from that rear end. We're not gonna cut it off that rear end, we'll just make new ones because it's easier, but we're more or less gonna set the rear end side by side and just get all their direct measurements off the old rear end, weld them on the new rear end. And then in theory, this should bolt back into the original 4-link bars and sit in the exact same position. Drive shaft, I don't know how that's gonna work out yet. We might have to shorten the drive shaft, maybe lengthen the drive shaft. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. So, for starters, we're gonna put Kirby's car up in the air and start pulling the original 9-inch rear end out. Okay, we've got our two upper bars up here we got to undo. We've got a brake hose going into our brake line right here that we got to undo. Coilovers we got to take off. Kirby wants to replace all these bushings and stuff that are kerchoinked in here, as well as he wants to put chrome springs on. So we'll take these apart. These, I'm not sure what brand these are. I measured them earlier to see if we could get coils for them, and they're a weird, I don't know what brand they are, so we got to take them all apart and figure out what they are. Drive shaft obviously needs to be undone. We've got e-brake cables in here. Now they go up there, and these low-car cables are a little bit weird. They don't like to, they're not a one-time only thing, but they're kind of a one-time only thing. So I think instead of undoing them up front, since we got to take the backing plates off anyways, I think we might just undo the e-brake cable from the backing plate inside here and just leave the cables on the car. I think while the rear end is still like firm and attached in the car, I'm going to pull the axles out so we can get the backing plates off. It's just easier when it's firm on something because you got to give it a hurrah to get those out. So that's why the axles aren't in this yet, is because the backing plate goes on first and then the axle goes in second, and it's got this little retainer plate in here that holds it on. Oh, that came out really easy actually. Well, if this was a reality TV show, this would be the point where Jim and I start yelling at each other, calling each other idiots. You screwed up, you did this, we're gonna lose the shop. These brakes don't fit. They are the wrong ones, which we kind of took a gamble on when we ordered them. So Ford 9 inches use 3 style brakes. There's small bearing, There's old large bearing and there's new large bearing, which I think is the same as Torino, I think that's how that works. These are Torino style. Torino is the most common one. And Kirby's car, I thought had Torino brakes. They're so close that like you can't tell unless you actually start taking it apart, and we didn't do that. I thought it had Torino brakes because that's the most common, and the one spot that I could measure with calipers from here to here is 2 inches, which happens to be the same as Torino brakes, but Torino brakes are bigger this way. So our new bearing area, and here's the gasket off of the existing one. So as you can see, we're a little bit smaller. Not a huge deal though, because I called up SoCal Speed Shop in Surrey, BC, just a short ferry ride away from us, and they have a set in stock. They're going to send them out tomorrow, so that'll solve this issue. So it'll also make this 9-inch easier for Kirby to sell when we pull it out, because it will essentially still be a complete rear end with drum to drum. So anyways, I'm going to put this backing plate back on, put the axle back in, and then just continue on with pulling that stuff out. Jim's moved on to the front. We're putting those Roadster supply style, let me find them in here. These style Buick brakes. They got disc brakes hidden inside of a Buick drum, so, oops. That's what Jim's working on. Got the rear end out. I'm taking the coilovers now because Kirby wants to replace these bushings for some reason. I don't know, they seem fine to me. Probably okay still. Get another 20,000 miles out of those. I've got the 9-inch set up on one bench and the quick change set up on the old table saw bench. I've ordered a couple of these from Roadster Supply, so we're gonna use those on the new rear end. I've got this one, it balances really nice right where it is. So what I've done is taken my pinion angle measurement. We've got 85.5 on the front of our yoke. So if we set this one up at the same angle, then we can take our angles off here. This is 87.7 degrees. And this one's 88.2 degrees, so I imagine we could probably split the difference on that and just set the new ones at 88 degrees. And that should kind of get our base started. And from there, all these ears and stuff, and these guys down here for our 4-bar, I was just gonna build those from scratch, one piece at a time, build them, get our measurements from the 9-inch, transfer it to the quick change, and weld it up. Well, after numerous attempts of trying to get these situated where they need to be and the right angles and everything, and it's kind of teetering here and it would fall down, and Jim and I had set it all back up, decided that we're gonna build a jig to hold these because jigs don't move and everything else is moving. So I've taken some 1-inch square tubing here, and that's gonna go across, and then I'm gonna build or cut a little tab out on the plasma table that this will bolt to, and then we can set these at our, I got a measurement off of here, from here to here, center to center, we need 39.25. So we can set these up at 39.25, 90 degrees up and down, and then bolt it to the jig, put the rear end in. It's gonna be great. Our jig is all welded up. So I put 2 holes in here so that we can utilize 2 holes in here, and that way we can keep it straight and not have it worry about flopping over to the side. Yeah, look at that. That's great. Put the nut on the back side to the other side, and then set that rear end in place. And hopefully this time it'll stop falling over, because that was super frustrating. Nope. This one's a little tight, but it'll go. It'll go. Boom, there we go. Might need to ream that one a little bit for next time. Hey, Jim. Yeah? Do you want to give me a hand? Do I? You want to be a doll and grab the other side of this? We'll set it up in there. Cool. Now I can center it up, get my angles right, and tack it. Okay, we are the same distance from here to here on both sides. These are sitting at 88 degrees, just like they were before. And our pinion here is at 85.6. This one was at 85.5. That's close enough, I think, within human error. We'll check it again when I put a tack on here. We'll double check it. It might pull a little bit. All right, let's do this. $85.5, bang on. So with these tacked in place, now we got to build our brackets for our lower 4-length bar to hook up to. So I'm just going to take a paper template off of this one and trace it onto some cardboard, fit it up to the other one, see how it fits, and then we can just cut that bracket out. Naturally, these aren't 90 degrees with the back of this. If you hold it on there, you can see they're on a little bit of an angle, which is fine. When we put the new ones on, we'll just match them up with the angle finder here, and it'll be okay. Hey, there's our template. So now we'll transfer this to the other one and see how it fits. So I've got it sitting in place. I'm gonna just put a little dotted line here, and then we'll make a cardboard template of just this part here. Okay, so that fits really nice. I'm happy with that. I'm gonna draw this on the computer now so we can cut it out, and we'll make 2 of them because we got to do a mirror image of this on the other side. Beautiful. That couldn't be any more perfect. So I just tried this on the outside here. And you know what? These are all the same. So I'm gonna cut 3 more out, and then we've got all our lowers done. We can mock them up on there, get our angles right, put a bolt between them to get our spacing correct, and we can weld those guys up too. I've got all 4 pieces cut out and tacked in place, and our measurements check out from there to there are the same as on the other rear end. I've got our angles matched. Now it is a little bit weird because these guys taper and these are straight. So what I'm gonna do is maybe weld 1 inch or so to get this nice and firm, and then use some of the heat from the weld to just pull this out ever so slightly till it lines up again. Do the same on this side. And it's just because we're welding a relatively straight piece onto a tapered piece. These ones here, looks like it was done like that as well, and then they just blended it in. Okay, that's welded in there. See if we can pull it over. I flipped it over and did the same thing on the bottom, and we got those guys lined up. Our measurements from here across the other side still check out okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and weld everything up now. These bottom guys are all welded up. I took a grinder and just cleaned the welds up a little bit on here before this thing gets painted. Well, Kirby just wants to smooth all the welds out like how his old one was, where you can't see any of that. So before it goes for paint, probably just clean everything up, maybe a little bit of filler. So for these top guys, we can't really go off of the existing rear end because it is weird. It's a bit weird, and it's hard to measure this and then transfer it to this because this is so different. So what I'm gonna do is go the easy route. We've got our bottom points already figured out. So we'll put the rear end back in the car, bolt our bottom bars up, jack it back up to ride height approximately, get our pinion angle, or we'll get our engine angle off the front of the engine, match our pinion so that that matches, have it sitting in place, and then just see where those top bars land, and we'll just build tabs to fit it. Nice and easy. Well, you just watched me put these coilovers back in, and then I took them out again because I realized as I was jacking it up without the top bars on there, as the spring was compressing, well, rather it not compressing, the rear end was just rolling back instead. So I took them out because I remembered that I have these guys. These are, I originally made these for mocking up rear ends in a Model A. This bolts to the bottom of the Model A cross member in this hole right there. And that allows you to set the Model A rear end up in place at like ride height, and then you can build your suspension. So I put those in instead. These are available on my website, by the way, lgspeedcustom.com. So I've got them in there, and we've got it situated nice and centered in there. If I take this straight edge, center it on top here, and line it up to the edge here, and then take this guy and go in, we have exactly 5 inches from this flange to the frame rail. So the rear end centered in there. Now we can just build our top mounts. I'm gonna take my angle finder and fit it on the front of the engine here, right on the pulley, and we are at 85 degrees bang on. So we need to set our pinion on the rear end also at the same 85 degrees so that they are in line with each other. So this rear end was very hard to, well, it wasn't very hard. It wouldn't move at all sitting on the rear end here. So I've used a ratchet strap on the front, sucked down to our floor jack, and we are at 85.3, which I think is close enough for now. We can get our tabs built, and these are adjustable top and bottom, so we can totally dial this in 100% if we have to, but I think at 85.3 we're close enough. So on our original axle here, from the center of our axle tube to the center of this bolt here is 3 3/4 of an inch. So in theory, if we go from the center of this axle tube up 3 3/4 of an inch and build some little ears to mount this, it should work great. So I've done some old school CAD drawing here. Our axle tube where this bracket's gonna sit is 4 inches. So I made a 4-inch circle from the center, 3 3/4 to the center of there. This is a 5/8 flat washer. And then I just kind of drew that in there. So I'm gonna cut this out now and mock it up and see how it fits. I know it's not gonna be perfect because this is designed to sit flat on here, and we're gonna be sitting on a bit of an angle, which usually means you have to open this radius up a little bit to compensate for that, which is why I did this out of cardboard rather than just drawing this on the computer and cutting it out. That way I can fine tune this, get it fitting how I want it, and then trace this image into the computer and cut our brackets out. Let's go fit this up and see what it looks like. Okay, so that works pretty dang good. We just got to open that radius up ever so slightly. I think I drew it out as a 4-inch radius. Maybe we'll go with a 5-inch radius and try that. But otherwise, it should be fine. I'm drawing this bracket up with a 5-inch radius as opposed to the 4-inch radius. So let's cut it out, see how it fits. If it works good, we'll cut a second one up. And then both sides are done. Yeah, that works out really nice on there. That 5-inch radius, I think, was just the ticket. So I'm gonna cut another one out, knowing that this inside one, we can do it on the same side, or on the other side for the inside one, and it'll be great. But I'm gonna try it on this side, because I know this tube tapers a little bit, but it might be close enough that it doesn't matter. Oh yeah, with 2 of them on there, it fits great. All right, I'll cut 2 more out, and then our tabs are done. We can square them up. We'll tack them, and then pull this rear end out and weld everything up. I lied, it's not okay. We do have to trim this down because of the taper. It's noticeable from the backside. If I put the angle finder on it and pull it to where we're level, you can see that the inside one is now like, I just measured it, and it's just over 1/8 of an inch higher, which means this side here that we just made We got to shave that down 1/8 of an inch to get this level and keep our 3 3/4 to our center line here. So we'll just make the other two just over 1/8 of an inch shorter, I guess. I just cut out a shorter one. It is that much shorter. So I'll mock this one up and try it. And then if it works, then I'll cut the other one out. I went ahead and already cut the other two out. So we'll just put those in the use later pile. Shorter one on, and we are there. Cool. I've got both sides mocked up, sitting in place. I'm gonna bring the welder over and tack them. This side got a little bit weird, and I ended up not using the short guy on there. Those are both the same length, and I couldn't figure out why the angle was so off. And then I realized that this bar, for some reason, is 1 inch further towards the frame rail than this side. And that's the way the brackets are welded on the frame. So there's nothing I can do about that. But by putting both the same ones on, it slides further down the taper. So the taper's not as critical then. So by putting the same size ones on, I've got it at, it's not exactly at perfect 90 degrees. It's like 89.5, close enough. So we're gonna tack those. I don't know if that was just an error, whoever built the car, or if that had something to do with, because this 9-inch center section is offset. Mind you, the way the brackets are on that one, like the one on the left over there, that could have been moved over. I don't know. I don't know why it's like that, but it's like that, and it'll be fine. We'll make it work the way it is. And the car drove really good before, so it'll probably drive really good again. Before we pull this rear end out again, I have slid the drive shaft back until it sits in our little pinion there, and I'm going to mark this with a marker here. You can see where it used to sit right there, and now we're sitting back here, which may or may not work. It depends how much material is still poking in. I'm going to slide this back until it comes out. I'm gonna get a drain bucket first and then slide it back so I don't get a ATF shower.
Okay, so I apologize. I did not film while I pulled it out and measured it because I needed 3 hands. So 2 to hold the drive shaft, pull it back, 1 to line the drain bucket up, and then 1 to measure. But from that blue line in, we have 1 1/8 inch still inside the transmission, which I don't think is enough. I'm gonna do a little bit of research on that and see how much you actually need. I think it should be more than that.
Okay, the drive shaft's out now. You can see here, if we measure from there to there, we're about 1 1/8 inch, which is not long enough. So we're gonna have to get the drive shaft extended. You can see where our seal used to run and where it's gonna sit now. So I think if we, got this drive shaft made 1 3/4 inches longer than where we're at now, I think that would be great. We got to change that rear U-joint as well. I'm not sure what size this is, but it's too big, and that rear end is set up for a 1310. All right, with these upper bar brackets tacked in place, we can take the rear end back out, put it up on the bench, and weld up the top pieces. Going down. So I've taken the sleeves out of our 4-bar bushings, and I'm going to put them in here and put the bolt through before I weld it. And the reason I'm doing this is because as you weld, the heat from the weld will cause these to pull. Sometimes they pull out, sometimes they pull in, depends what side you start on. So by putting these in and tightening them up, it just ensures that when you're done and this cools down, you still have the correct spacing in there for the 4-link bars to fit. If you don't do this, sometimes they'll squeeze in and then you can't get your bar in. So now, we'll fire up the TIG and weld these guys up. All right, these are all welded up, which means, I'm losing my washers. Washers everywhere. All right, this is all welded up, which means the fabrication end of it is done. So Kirby's son is gonna paint all this. Fortunately, that means we're kind of at a standstill right now because we're still waiting for our brake assemblies from SoCal to come. They thought they had them in stock. They had everything except for the backing plates, which they should have late this week, I think. We're also waiting on chrome springs for the coilovers. So send this off for paint, send the drive shaft off to get lengthened, wait for the rest of our parts to come, and then we can throw this thing back in and finish this job off. So I think we'll probably pause this video here. Thanks everybody for watching. I really appreciate it. Let me know in the comments what you think about Kirby's quick change rear end. I think it's pretty cool looking. I like it. I'd put this in my car, definitely. Anyways, if you want to support this channel, please check out the website, lgspeedcustom.com. We got lots of LG Speed and custom merch available. Always appreciate the support, so thank you guys very much. And yeah, we'll see you guys on the next video. I think I'm gonna put this to the side and jump back on the wiring on my 32.